Not really much at all. I've done a lot of military things and police kind of movies and done some procedural things and really just listen to what Eric Haney would tell us right before we actually shoot. My guy's the colonel, so he's really in the office and he does all his fighting with the radio and does very little combat. There's one episode coming up where they'll flash back and I'm actually out on a mission with Dennis, but none. I did none for this at all. But I've, you know, I bring, 20 some years of acting and all the stuff that I've learned over the time, that time period came with me to this. So I can, I own guns, I can fire guns, I hold no, da-da-da-da. So gave me a chance to just focus on different things, like learning the David Mamet dialogue and working on that. I love David. I love working with him. I love working with him as a director, and I love learning his words. And it can be difficult, He's got a certain way that he kind of writes, and you kind of have to kind of really get in there and focus on what you're doing. But that's the thing that's the tricky part when you're trying to learn it, is trying to get into that, because you'll do a lot of these sentences where they just sort of stop, and you got to learn it like that. We do that the way I just did it. You have to kind of get into the way he writes so real to actually learn how to do it and say it that way. That's where it can be challenging. Yeah, well, David's already asked me about something that he wants to do, and I've already said yeah. And I love working with a guy. I had no idea what he was going to be like until I met him, and really he has such enthusiasm, and he just embraces actors, and he's really just a loving guy and very creative, and you're charmed by him, and you want to excel for him, and you want it's a really, really ideal situation to be in as an actor doing David Mamet for television. Sean Ryan is really, 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 we've got David in there, and David's fantastic, and Sean really knows his way around television, and those two guys together, and then Eric Haney, who's lived it and brings that life experience to the equation, and it's a really neat collaboration that's going on, and there's some pretty outlandish things that happen, and they kind of seem like I can't believe that would actually be, but you'll actually read it in the newspaper. There's stuff going on that we so don't know about, and it's so covert. And I really think this is more similar to something like The Sopranos. It's like a mafia of green. They stick to themselves. They talk only amongst themselves. They only party with themselves, and everything is secretive and so forth. So it's kind of like the mafia, That's the thing I think that's really cool about the show too, is like the only like real political comment we have is we usually do the thing that's right. And what you have to really think about, and I think the thing that will give the American population, actually give the world a certain amount of relief, is that you've got these really fine warriors out there that do know what the right thing is, and they do it, regardless of what they hear from Washington. They'll carry out their mission, but instead of wiping out a village of 30 people to get one guy, they'll figure out a smarter way to get that guy and leave the rest of the population around them fine. You know what I mean? Just to go in and get that one person without destroying any human lives and taking casualties of innocent people. So they're a conscience. They're the moral conscience for our government, and it's the warriors that are out there in the field that are doing it. It's not the yahoos in Washington D.C., the politicos. It's not those guys. It's the warrior, and what a noble thing. And we have an episode on torture where they say, we basically are hearing from Washington their views, and we basically remind them that those people are not our teachers. We don't learn from them. We don't replicate their forms of torture because we learned it from them. That's not the right way. We don't torture. So it's neat, and so we make these comments, and I think that they'll be in the show, and I think people are really, I think it makes it really interesting. It's much different than any other military show.